everybody, and welcome back to Disability Employment Awareness Month, or DEEM, the sequel. I am your humble host, Mike Wing, also known as the Anti-Ableist, and tonight I want to share a story with you. A story about my personal experience with employment support and inclusive employment. The year was 2019, back before the pandemic was even a thought in our minds. I needed a job. And so I reached out to an employment support agency that helped people with disabilities find inclusive employment. In theory, it's a great thing. Unfortunately, as you will soon find out, in practice, it doesn't always work the way that it should. So the first step in receiving employment support from this agency was to do an intake. And so I met with someone, for the sake of this video, we will call them Denise. I met with Denise at a coffee shop, and we talked about my skills and my experience and what kind of jobs I could do, and all of that was fine until we got to the part where we talked about what kind of supports I need. Now, as a disability rights advocate, I'm a firm believer that you should meet people where they're at. You should give people the support that they need, not the support that your organization thinks that everybody with a disability needs. Disability is complex. People with disabilities are complex. We don't fit in a textbook. We don't fit in a box. However, Denise told me that in order for me to get support from this agency, I would have to follow the rules. And the rules were basically this. They would come to work with me every day for the first 2 weeks, just to make sure I understood the job and all of that stuff. Then, after those 2 weeks, they would reevaluate and see if they could lessen it to a week. And it would keep going like that until, I no longer needed their support. Now, I know that most of you are probably thinking, well, Mike, that sounds really good. Like, it sounds like they want you to succeed and do great at your job and all that stuff. That is fantastic, but you will soon understand why there was a problem with that for somebody like me. And by somebody like me, I basically mean that I'm a very fast learner. And also, I don't like people sitting behind me and staring at me while I do my work. It's creepy. I don't care who you are. I literally cannot have a desk where my back is to an open door, because it freaks me out. I needed a job, so I signed the piece of paper and went away, and a while later, Denise called me and said that I had an interview with a company. For the sake of this, we'll call it A&E. So Denise called me and said I had an interview at A&E. And I was excited. Oh yes, and they came with me to the interview, which, for me, I would have asked for that anyway. It just makes me feel a bit more at ease if I have somebody there with me, especially if, for whatever reason, I don't understand something or, something comes up. Anyway, so they went with me to the interview. I got a bit anxious, but other than that, it went well. My supervisor was very nice. And so after that, a while later, I think it was like maybe a month, maybe less. I don't remember exactly. But I get a call from the supervisor, and they tell me that I've gotten the role, that I've been hired. So, that was super exciting. And basically what the gist of my job was to scan employee files onto the computer and then enter some stuff on a spreadsheet. So that's simple. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm putting anybody down that says that that's not simple. There's some people that might struggle with that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, that was certainly simple. So I thought, okay, that's fine. So my first day, I went in with Denise, and Denise and the supervisor sat with me through the entire orientation. And, my thinking at that time was, okay, it's kind of weird that the supervisor is sitting here with me when they probably have other work to do, but maybe they're just really hands-on and they do that with all the employees. Yeah, they don't. But we'll get to that. So, after the orientation, the supervisor showed me how to do my work and all that stuff. And I started scanning files. And Denise just sat behind me. Just watching me work. And at that time, I was also part-time. So, Denise sat behind me, watching me work, even though I've got a good handle on it. I think maybe I had a couple of questions. But other than that, I was doing well. And, by the third day, I was doing really well. So well, in fact, that I actually was starting to feel uncomfortable. I was starting to feel really uncomfortable with Denny sitting behind me, just watching me. So I decided to pull Denise into a meeting room. And I just said, I really appreciate all of the help that you've given me thus far. However, I've got a really good grasp on what I'm supposed to be doing, and I really don't need you here. Now, let me put this into perspective. Most support staff that I've known, that I've worked with, have said, we want to be worked out of a job. We want to help somebody become so independent that they don't need support staff there with them constantly. And that should be the goal of every single support staff. You should want the people that you support to be successful and to be able to be independent and do things on their own. And yeah, okay, if they can't, that's totally fine too. But meet people where they're at. And when someone is saying to you, hey, listen, thank you for all of your help, but I got this. Don't respond the way that Denise responded. Denise got very upset and was deeply offended that, and I quote, don't need her help anymore. Now, let's go back to the beginning of this story when we did the intake and we talked about the rules that this agency had in place. They didn't one time ask me what I needed, what kind of support I needed. They didn't ask. They just decided that they knew what they were doing, and they made the rules, and there we go. That was the end of the story. However, had they asked me, I would have told them I'm a very fast learner. I probably don't need somebody there with me 5 days a week for my entire shift. So Denise ends up leaving in a huff, and I carry on with my job and everything is fine. One day, I was talking to my supervisor, and, they had kind of seen how frustrated I was getting with Denise and the agency and all of this stuff. And so, they basically told me that they could tell that I didn't need as much support as Denise was giving me, and that I probably could have handled the orientation all on my own. But I think sometimes when it comes to inclusive hiring, depending on the agency and depending on, what the rules are or whatever, there shouldn't be a rule because everybody with a disability is different and complex. Anyway, but when there are those rules in place, I think it really put an employer in a hard spot. Because that employer is trying to foster that relationship with that agency. And so if they see their employee struggling to deal with that agency, it can sometimes, depending on the supervisor, be really difficult for them to know how to handle that. And I hold no blame on my supervisor. This company was incredible. I actually had a meeting with the director of employment services at this agency. And I told them my concerns and my frustrations and all that. And I will never, ever forget what the director of the employment support part of this agency said to me. She said, "We've been doing this for 20 years, over 20 years. We know what we're doing, and we don't need your help or your feedback." So basically, somebody with a disability who they support, they don't want my feedback. They don't care. Like, this is an employment agency for people with disabilities, but they, people without disabilities, know what they're doing, and they don't have to listen to anybody. And that is honestly probably one of the most shocking things I've ever heard. Truly. Get feedback from the people that you support. I don't care who it is. If you're actively looking for that feedback and you're trying to be better and you're trying to make sure that your services meet the needs and all that stuff, then people are going to want to come to you. People are going to want to support you. People are going to want to shout from the mountaintop about what an amazing agency you are. When you get so pig-headed and full of yourself that you think, oh, well, we're king of the mountain and we know what we're doing and, we don't need any feedback from our customers. That only sends a message that you don't care. And people with disabilities deserve better than that. Everybody that you support deserves better than that. I actually also went to the executive director of this agency, who, when I told her what the director of employment support had said to me, she said, "Yeah, well, it kind of sounds like this person doesn't really uphold the values that our organization believes in and stands for. And I thought, oh, that is great. So that probably means that she'll do something about it. That probably means that maybe this employment support director will get let go or something. Or get reprimanded. No. No. She hasn't been. And also, they still aren't getting feedback from the people that they support. Even though I suggested having something on their website where people could give feedback. I guess the takeaway from this, there's two takeaways. Number one takeaway from Denny and the agency that I went with, and to any other agencies that run like this, stop trying to put people with disabilities into a box. Stop trying to put us inside of a textbook. Everyone on the planet is complex. So meet people where they're at. And don't assume that you know everything. Because I promise you that you don't. If you don't let people flourish in the areas that they're capable of flourishing in, then you're holding them back from achieving great things. And that only hurts them. The second thing I want to say is to employers. Hiring inclusively is a wonderful, incredible, fantastic, economical thing. Because realistically, if you think about it, there are, according to the World Health Organization, 1.6 billion people with disabilities on the planet. That number is going to keep going up. Disability is also the only demographic that you can enter into at any point in your life. And it's also the only demographic that intersects with every other demographic. And, you know, we're going to talk about myths and things later on, but just know that whatever your reservations are about hiring somebody with a disability, it's probably not fully accurate. The other thing is about the recruitment process, in my mind, is a big problem, especially when it comes to inclusive employment. There are a lot of people with disabilities who don't have post-secondary education. And in my mind, there's nothing wrong with that. Because people with disabilities have all kinds of skills. Whether it's in administration, or whether it's in business, or whether it's in retail, or whether it's in dermatology, I don't know. Everybody has skills. And everybody should be able to use those skills and see those skills as valuable. I understand that having education is important, and it's a good thing to have. But I don't think that it needs to be a requirement. I don't think that you need 4 years or 5 years of schooling to work in retail. I don't think that you need 5 years of computer engineering to work in IT. I don't. I think that these are things that people are capable of learning. And if people are like me, they don't learn by reading a textbook or hearing some instructor go on and on and on about something. That's not how I learn anyway. I learn by doing. I learn by getting my hands dirty and actually trying things. Find out what people's skills are and use those skills. See those skills as part of their value. Because they are. Thank you for joining me tonight, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and happy game.